just to sort of chronologically go through the whole season and sort of just kind of steer the conversation a little bit, and you guys can help me with that as well. But what I first wanted to introduce to everybody is the question of, especially you veteran guys of that season, coming off winning the titles in 2013 and 2014, and then that 2015 team, if we can talk about that for a minute. A very talented team, obviously, but for whatever reason or set of reasons, finished dead last and didn't make the tournament. So it's not about that team, of course, but I wanted to ask initially, Al, and Tim, you can start with this answer. The disappointment of 2015, did that in any way shape the setup and the preparation for the 2016 team? And sort of you could reflect a little bit, and then you guys can chime in after that as well. And Coach Herba also, how did you take that disappointment of 2015 and kind of turn it around for 2016?
Well, every guy on the screen knows that we were just setting everybody up for 16. That's all. So coming off of 13 and 14, we did our thing, and a lot of these guys were big parts of that. But then 15, things happen. I mean, it's sports. We've got young men in our program. Sometimes there's distractions, and sometimes you don't play well, and people forget that there's a lot of other teams out there who are trying to knock you off, and that's what happened that year. And to the credit of every guy on the screen right now, they put that behind them, and it wasn't even mentioned, I think, the entire year of 16, and these guys just forged forward and were on a mission, and I think we saw that from the very beginning. And I remember back as far as the 16 season goes, it was Darian's pinch hit grand slam at Houston Baptist that got us the first one of the year. And even though we struggled early on, these guys were tenacious. Even early on, even when things weren't going well for us, we knew it was a special group. And once we got rolling, no one could stop us. And again, it has a lot to do with everyone. It's everything to do with everyone on the screen right now.
Let me just hear from a couple of the seniors, whatever seniors are on this call, seniors from that 2016 team. I mean, obviously, again, you saw the seniors from 2015 with, Blandon and Thomas and Osner and so on, go away disappointed to finish their careers. What was on your mind heading into your senior year about how you weren't going to duplicate that and how you could kind of get back to the championship caliber?
I think what 2015 kind of showed our team and our group of seniors too is that, it's the little things in baseball that end up adding up to wins or more of a successful season. I think a lot of things in 2015, we had a couple bad bounces our way, and one bad bounce, one unlucky move, one game is hard to, like, a lot of the times the games didn't go our way due to that. So it seemed as if moving into the 2016 season, we wanted to kind of keep attention to the details. We kind of fed off that 2015 fire to kind of bounce back and play a little bit better in 2016. And I think it also showed that, when a team is very, very close personally and off the field, it really benefits the team on the field as well. And I think in 2016, that was one thing that really stepped out to me and stood out in an overall perspective, is the fact that, 2016 was one of those teams where, it was easy. It felt like it was easier on the field because it was so easy off the field with these guys. I think we really enjoyed playing together as a team. I really enjoyed all the personalities that we have on the team. I think all the personalities in this year just came together well and in a great glue that kind of added to kind of our recipe for success is what we saw in 2016.
Thinking back to my 4 years at Binghamton, you go off those first 2 years, we won championships, and you go into 15, and I just keep thinking about how, everybody always says, all-star teams they're not always the best teams, you know what I mean? And we had I thought that it was a good team that year, and you look at some of the talent that was on that team, guys that had been there for years and made such a huge impact, but, all-star teams aren't always the best. And like Coach said, that America East, everybody's out to get each other. And so that year kind of got us. Maybe we got a little ahead of ourselves. We had some prior success. And I think going into 16, it was all about just, like Dave said, just being being a team on and off the field. And we found a way to really come together as a whole group instead of different little groups together playing. It was more like we were all in it as one. And we found a way. Early on, we struggled, no doubt, but we found a way to start winning. Once we got to play at home a little bit, what did we lose? 1 or 2 games at home that year? I don't remember, but it was we found a way to just kind of grind it out at home, and we found our groove for sure. But that was the story of that year.
What I thought was interesting was, I look at that roster breakdown. There were 5 seniors, 6 juniors, so 11 upperclassmen. It's not a huge number, and then you had 12 sophomores. So my question now is for the sophomores on the call. That's 2/3 of the team were underclassmen, and a big number of sophomores. So Agresti, Krowiak in particular. What was there ever any feeling among the classes? Your class in particular, like, hey, this is our team, we're kind of riding the ship, or were there any dynamics between the classes in terms of who was going to kind of lead this? Because the sophomores by numbers had the biggest number.
I guess I'll go first. Thinking back, not really. We never, as a sophomore class, never thought like this is our team. Like we always looked up to the juniors, the seniors, knowing that they had been to where we wanted to be before. All we knew in college was coming in last place. And I think we all agreed that it sucked and we didn't want to, feel that again. So we wanted to just, follow Reed's footsteps, follow Kreitz's footsteps, follow Shanzy. All those guys had been where we wanted to be, and we wanted to get there, and we knew we had to get behind them and be there as a supporting unit. Really,
going into college, everyone's used to, successful programs being top guys. And then you get to college and it's a lot different, whether you're not starting or you're not winning. It was definitely a big, slap in the face to everyone where, we came in last. You're not playing maybe as much as you want or whatnot, but it didn't really have much to do with, how big our class was. It was just, like Jay was saying, just kind of following in the footsteps, trusting the process, coaching staff, older guys of what to do, how to go about it, and, really how to win at the next level. So, we owe it all, to everyone above us, in terms of just any success, in terms of just following in footsteps, to where we got, as a class, I would say.
I would say kind of as a whole group aspect of that team, if you watch the way all of us interacted and the way we all hung out kind of away from the field, if you were just an outside perspective looking in, I don't know if you'd be able to tell who was kind of what class, how we were differentiated. We all meshed so well together that it was just we were one unit. It wasn't seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen. It was one team. It was pretty cool.
The biggest thing was if you were starting or if you were the guy behind the person that was starting, everybody wanted everybody to do their absolute best, not just, individually, but for the team in general. One little part made such a huge difference. And as a pitcher, I know Wags, Kreitz, Bunel, everybody at Leaguey can amount that we weren't trying to get everybody out, striking everybody out. The defense was incredible that year. I don't know how many errors we had. I know we had to be top in the nation in fielding percentage. So the support you had behind you on defense and then what the guys did at the plate, I'm sure we'll get to the Hartford game, like incredible from the entire season. Everyone was there to pick each other up. If somebody was coming in the dugout, upset over something, like someone was there right away to pick their head up, pick them up next at bat, anything like that.
All right, so that's good, you guys. Thanks. So let's dig into the season a little bit. As a couple of you guys have mentioned, slow start. 2-13 out of the gate. Now, granted, Tim and Ryan, obviously, you schedule more challenging early on to hope that it pays off in May, and obviously many times it does. And I know the simple answer is to say no. Nobody was worried about that record, but was anybody worried about sitting at 2-13, especially coming off a season that tailed off in May too. So collectively from May to, the next February, that's a pretty rough record, something you're not used to having. Was there any pep talks needed, any sort of calming down of, hey, don't worry about the record, especially as you get into conference play?
I think our schedule always plays out that way, but I think you're right, John. The slow start makes you start thinking, geez, are we going to have a repeat of 15 here? But again, I think being with the group of guys and that team is 16 and knowing what the makeup and knowing how hard they worked, I feel like as a coaching staff, we all knew it was just a matter of time before we put things together. And as Reed said earlier, once we did, it was kind of no stopping us moving forward. So, but yeah, I mean, as a coaching staff, we sit there and wonder. And but again, I think you have to just trust your players, and we knew that we had the right group of guys at that time, and they proved us right in the end.
Any of the players remember any time? I know it's hard to remember this moment in time, but any specifics of thinking, oh boy, we got to turn this around quickly?
Yeah, I can speak on that a little bit. I'm living in Philly now, and I run by Penn almost like every day. And I specifically remember one memory from that season. It was me, Skid, and Paul sitting in our hotel room after like the second game of our Penn series, after we lost, I think, the first 2 games or something like that to them, just talking and almost like utter disbelief at like knowing how much talent we had as a team, and just like not being afraid of what happened in the prior year happening again, but just being like, I don't know what's going on. It was like a feeling almost I never had before in the 3 years that I had played throughout that time. And I think ever since that night, like the day after we won that game, and I'm pretty sure after that was when we kind of turned everything around and started to get hot as a team. And it was just like, for some reason, that conversation in our hotel room sticks out to me, because it was almost like we didn't really do anything as a turning point, but like it was almost like the turning point from my perspective of that season, from when things just started turning around.
So that was a little bit of a unique year for me before conference play, because rarely do I have to hit the road and miss any games. But we had some situations that needed to be potential. So, we just said best if I get out there and see a couple guys. I was actually I was out of during the Delaware series, and I flew back into Philly in the middle of the Penn series. And so that's a really unique situation, because I'm getting our coaching staff's perspective, and then I'm getting some of our guys' perspective, and it's all third person. I'm not there to see it. So I'm truly getting the perception versus the reality. And I think for me, when we, like Eddie said, when I was listening to what the coaching staff was describing, and I was listening to what the players were describing and matching it up, just kind of got the feeling all we had to do is win a few games and break through. And if I remember, we go up against Bucknell in our first midweek, and everything comes together. We do like this committee day, and everybody pitches great. We score a bunch of runs and get a ton of hits. It's a feel-good day. And then we take that long bus ride up to Maine, and I think this is something that I remember Skip talking about as the year progressed. Like, we go up to Maine and lose a series, the whole season's probably just a little bit different. You go up there and win a series, and you're like, okay, you go up there and sweep, and you win like 2 really close games in tough, cold conditions the way we did. We small balled it. We pitched great. And it was almost like in a matter of a week, we figured out how to win. And it was almost like once we saw the recipe, we knew what it was. You know what I mean? So we had the ingredients. We just didn't know how to organize them up until that week. And then if I remember right, I think we swept 3 of our first 4 conference series.
Yeah.
It's hard to sweep a series in the America East. We swept 3 of our first 4. So, it was just like we had the ingredients, and we just had to learn how to make it taste good,
Yeah, I was just going to ask
by
you
the
that.
way, anybody who doesn't recognize that phone number in the bottom, I think Foles has joined us.
What's up, Foles?
I'm a good listener. I like to listen.
How's it going, Foles?
Foles.
All good, guys. I'm a good listener, and I will continue to listen.
Foles, please chime in whenever you feel like it. But yeah, Ryan, that's what I was going to get to. Was you're exactly right. You guys beat Bucknell 14-2. As I look at my cheat sheets here, then you go up to Maine and sweep them 6-1, 8-1, and 2-0 in 12 innings. And I can't imagine a lot of teams, come off that long trip with a sweep over Maine. So I imagine that does anyone else remember that as sort of really being any of the players being a real moment?
Yeah, John, for me, that stands out as kind of our turning point of that season. We reflected on 2015. I feel like we had some great players, a great lineup. We just never really had an identity. And I feel like that main series, we kind of found that identity. The offense clicked. The pitching was unreal. So obviously having those worries of the 2015 season, starting 2-13, and then, hitting conference play in the stride, taking all three from Maine. I feel like we kind of we hit the gas from there, and we were just we were rolling with confidence for the entire conference series from that point on.
Right, you sweep Maine, lost at Penn State, sweep at home over Albany. You did lose 2 of 3 at Lowell after that, lost to Cornell, then a 3-game sweep over Hartford with the last one being the walk-off. Clobbered Marist. Split doubleheader with Marist. Took 2 of 3 against UMBC, and then the 23-1 win over New York Tech with a doubleheader sweep there, and rolling from there with a sweep over Stony Brook to come as well to kick off May. So, after that 2-13 start, then that ended up being a 24-9 finish to the regular season, 19-5 conference record. Comfortable first place by 3.5 or 4 games in the loss column, and then 14-1 at home. So last team unbeaten at home until when was that loss? Oh, the loss to Maine on the last game.
Last day.
That's right. Yep. So I guess the obvious question: how much confidence, even despite the Maine game, which I think there may have been some lineup juggling, knowing that we had clinched the day before, but 2 days before. So obviously that was kind of maybe a throwaway game. But in terms of heading into the tournament as the top seed and finishing so strong, obviously the confidence was pretty high, right?
Yeah, I right. I guess I'll step in. I think our team was obviously, as you were saying, we were rolling. We were feeling great. I think, like Skid was alluding to, I think the locker room after that 2-0 win in 12 innings, when we were getting all ready to get back on the bus and take this 12.5-hour bus ride home, I think that was a turning point. And I think we just took that energy from that locker room and just remembered how it felt and how we wanted to continue that feeling throughout every weekend. So I think going into the conference tournament, we knew we had our identity, as also Skid alluded to, and we just had this confidence with our team in that we kind of turned our mentality into, let's get ourselves in a good spot to let's continue to win so that we don't have to stop playing with each other. And I think in the conference tournament, I think since most of our team, as you said, we were kind of young, but I would say, 3/4 of our team kind of had the experience of the conference tournament. They've experienced it themselves. They know how you need to be on your top of your game at all times, especially in this conference. I think we kind of understood the fact that we needed to play at our top, but we had that silent confidence in not only each other, but the team as a whole, to come together and get it done. I think the first time that we really were kind of rolled in the first game. I think the first time that we kind of got, bounced back a little bit was when we were down to like 2 or 3 hits in Hartford through 8 innings. And I think there was a talk, I don't know whether it was Reed, it was Kreitz, it was Bunel, it was one of us, where we kind of brought everyone together and we said, hey guys, we still have 3 outs. Let's lock in. Let's use our 3 outs the best way we can. We've been here before. It's nice to have the experience to be able to say, hey, we've scored 7 runs in an inning and beat this team. Well, who says we can't do it again? And I think just the camaraderie in the dugout at that time and the fact that we knew what we needed to do to win because we figured it out so consistently moving up into the conference tournament gave us that extra confidence moving into the tournament, which I don't think we ever thought we would need to have to really pull on the strings like we did in that Hartford game.
Does anybody remember, by the way, before the tournament started, of course, there was the banquet the night before, or 2 nights before you guys had the first day off. Anyone remember catching that Coach of the Year graphic on the screen there for Tom Sinicki? That was I took a photo of that. That was a precious one from the conference or the Lowell people with Tom. Not the first time that he's had his name butchered, I guess, but maybe the first on the first name. Coach, you remember that, right?
I've been called a lot worse than Tom. So no problem with that. I'm good with it, and I do remember how it was pretty funny.
All right, so let's go through step by step in the tournament if we could. So our opener against number 5 Albany, they had what'd they do? They beat UMBC the day before 8-5. Obviously, we swept them during the regular season. What I remember then watching again on the clips, of course, was Mike Bunel striking out the side in the first. Mike, I'll put you on the hook here. Really hot day. How did you feel that day? Obviously, you had 9 strikeouts and 8 scoreless innings, and the game kind of felt like it was inevitable, in our corner. But how important to everybody, I guess, was that striking out the side just to set the tone early on?
I think it gave everybody a lot of confidence. I know it gave me a lot of confidence with a warm day. It's definitely a step up from the early series we have in the year with your VMIs and your mains. So it always feels really good on a nice warm day. It's always fun when there's a radar gun at a stadium. It's the only place we played in a while that has one, so it's fun, trying to peak but not peak at the same time. So a couple early runs for us. I remember that game, and from there it was kind of just business as usual. Like everybody's been saying, we were going to roll. And it really just carried over to that day and obviously throughout, the tournament itself. But that day it didn't feel easy. Albany's a really good team. They're really scrappy. They love to go opposite field. So they try to take away, something they do well in terms of me just keeping fastballs away, keeping sliders away, not giving something really good to hit. But, they got to me a little bit during the season. But to that day, I think it just early runs, a lot of confidence from everybody, a lot of good attitudes, everybody at an all-time high, it felt like. So, like I said, a couple early runs, striking out the side to begin with, and it felt like it kind of was a cruise control at that point for everybody.
Eddie catching him Bunel that day. What do you recall about his stuff, if anything, and just again the heat of the temperature must have been in the low 90s or so. It just felt stifling as I remember that whole tournament. But what do you recall about Bunel's stuff?
Just kind of similar to you guys. I looked at the videos recently, and it looked like Bunel missed every bat by like 4 or 5 inches. So that's when he's really on. I don't know. Bunel was pretty much nasty the entire year. I know I joke around and say I should get all the credit for calling his pitches, but, he was the best pitcher in the conference by far that year. And, I was just happy for him. And obviously glad to hop on his back every time. He's going to give us eight innings, no runs, put the team on his back, put us in a good position to win. So there's not much more I could really ask for. I didn't really have to do that much that day because he made it easy for all of us.
All right, and then so on that day, Hartford beat Stoney in the 2-3 game, so that set up our winners bracket game. And obviously we swept them during the regular season, but they were close games, and then the walk-off certainly. I guess for the coaches initially, what do you recall, if you can recall, thinking about that matchup against Hartford? In that particularly the pitching matchup, maybe with McKay. What were some of the thoughts heading into that winners bracket game?
John, what I remember most is there was a story going through the stadium or something that the Hartford team told Stony Brook, we'll see you, later on in the tournament after they got done beating us. So I don't know if the guys caught that. It's something that I had heard, and they were right. They caught Stony Brook again, but it was after we came back and beat them. So I guess they had half the story right, I guess.
you recall anything about that matchup, or even just Hartford in general? Man, they won 37 games. They were obviously a great team that year, and the McKay kid had I'd marked down he had us down 7-1 in the regular season before their bullpen kind of blew that game. So obviously we were in for a tough matchup against him.
Yeah, I think McKay was a little bit of a tougher matchup for us that year because he didn't leave a lot of balls over the middle of the plate. So he was pretty vanilla. I mean, he didn't punch a lot of guys out. He just kept the ball down, away, and it was almost like he just beat you over the head with a pillow, and you'd look up and be like, wow, we're in the 6th, 7th inning. We got like 6, 7 hits. We haven't punched out, but gosh, we don't have but 1 or 2 runs if we're lucky. And I just remember when they had some options because he pitched on Sunday in the series against us. So they had some options. You didn't know if they were going to throw him. They didn't necessarily have to. You know what I mean? And so when they announced McKay, it just came down to, was he going to have a good day or not? If he had a good day, he gave the guys a chance to win every time because he didn't miss over the plate a lot. He threw strikes. So,
and what do you guys recall? You guys that hit that day against him. What did he have? I mean, what was the trouble, and how concerning was it that you just couldn't push across any runs through 7 innings?
I mean, for me, I'm sure everyone could attest to this. At least during the year, when we faced the Hartford starters, it was like the same starter, all 3 guys. It was like upper 80s, flat fastball, decent breaking, but like nothing crazy. But we just couldn't seem to like get on them. No one was striking out. But we couldn't just get to him. So it's like after the regular season game, and then we see him again in the tournament, we're like, all right, we're going to get on this guy. And then we're 8 innings through and no runs or 1 run, whatever it was. And it was just like mind boggling and so frustrating that we couldn't like get to these guys because they weren't, in my opinion, anything special. They were good pitchers, but nothing to hold the best offense in the league to 2 hits after 8 innings. Whatever it was. That's why I was just so, I don't recall anything like this guy was dealing. He's hitting his spots, but nothing crazy. That's why to me it was just so like mind-boggling.
Yeah, and just to go off of Crow and Coach Herba, McKay, he was just the dude that went out there and competed. Didn't really have anything that would blow you away. And I felt like every inning we were kind of right there. We had a couple guys on. Yeah. We drive a ball, it would get caught, or line out, double play, something along those lines where we just couldn't keep the momentum to carry over and put a couple runs across the board. But I remember when they took out McKay, we were pretty happy about that. So once we got to that bullpen, we knew we were in good shape.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just going to ask. How happy was everybody to see him leave? Yeah, 7 innings, 7 hits, only 2 strikeouts, but no damage, obviously. Okay, well, so again, some optimism in the dugout, at least a couple hits in the 8th inning. And then, again, anyone remember any chatter, any messaging heading into the 9th about what's got to happen?
I could talk about this. I just think in general, the struggle we faced early in that game was pretty parallel to our season and how we started overall with our record. And, later in the season, we really picked it up and finished strong. So I think that really attests to the team we had and how close-knit we were, because it wasn't so much about statistics or how well you played. It was truly about playing for the guy next to you. And I think that's what really made our team special, and especially late in that game. I specifically remember after Jay walked and I got hit, I got to first and I told Coach Herba, I said, we're going to win this effing ball game. And 8 batters later, Jay hits a grand slam to win the game. So, it was a true chemistry that you really can't draw up. And, I think that comes around once in a while. So the fact that, myself and I'm sure everyone else could agree, we're able to be a part of that is truly something that I'll hold on to forever.
Anybody else remember anything about the conversations in the dugout, or at least after the first couple of hitters, particularly maybe that pitching change where So DeMauro was in. He comes out, and Ferguson comes in. He's the one that had given up the regular season walk-off to lose it. So,
So
again,
John,
how much you guys follow the individual guys specifically, but was there any confidence
I think
in Ferguson?
they went to DeMauro in the 8th, and he had a clean inning. And then they ran him out to start the 9th. And it early on, he was one of those guys that when he started losing control of the baseball, it could spiral pretty quickly. And you just had that look like he was like not going to finish this game. And then when they went and got Ferguson, the guy that we beat at home, I think we all looked at each other like, wow, 10 minutes ago, McKay was basically sitting on top of us. And now we're 2 guys into this bullpen, and there's a couple guys out there that have never had success against us. So that was, if nothing else, different than it had been for the last 2 hours, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I also think there are so many parallels between our midseason walk-off against them with that walk-off. Like the pitchers being the same. I remember, I walked to start that inning. Reed walked to start the other inning. The shortstop made an error to keep the inning going. Like, there were just so many parallels. And I remember thinking right after that, whoever the shortstop was, once he booted that ball, I'm like, man, this is feeling very familiar. And I think a lot of other guys started feeling the same way, just the same feeling that they were kind of on the ropes as they were back in that midseason game. We were kind of just getting over the hump, feeling like, this thing's about to turn.
Right. And I think, Jay, the funny thing was that Hartford, I think, was feeling the exact same way, because doing that earlier in the regular season kind of gave us the confidence and them the, oh no, here we go again. I remember when I finally got to first base, the first baseman, who was one of their best players, Dave McKinnon, kind of looked at me and he said, "Don't tell me you're doing this to us again, Chance." And I still remember that vividly, the look on his face. And I think that was either when Ferguson came in or right after he came in. I'm not 100% sure, but he realized in his head, you could just feel the tightness in their infield when you're on the base paths, just after the error and just everything going on that way. It was almost as if in a matter of, like we were saying, in a matter of 30 minutes, this Coach Herbert kind of talked about, their confidence went to 0 and our confidence went to 100. And I think that's how we kind of got to the ending of the game. But I'll never forget Dave McKinnon saying to me at first base. It kind of made the day even that much more special.
John, I remember being in the third base coaching box and just how their dugout went from "we're going to win this thing" to dead silence. And I heard it, I felt it during that entire inning. And I just remember that standing out in my mind as a moment where the tide had turned and it was our game basically to win. And it was almost like they were preparing to lose again to us in the very same way they did during this season.
What I still think is amazing, though, is so that was going to be my next question, is how many batters into the 10 that we sent to the plate did it take for guys on the team or collectively the team to feel like, oh wow, we're going to do this. This is going to happen. But so Paul may have been the first to say it only took 2 batters when he reached base. But what I still think is amazing is, after so Agresti walked, Rufo hit by pitch, McGee reached on the error. Pitching change, Franchi fly out. From there on out, any hard ball, you got a double play, game-ending double play just waiting to happen just by the sheer luck of the game, and you still rattled, you still kept it going. That's what makes it a 1% or a half of 1% chance that you put 9 on the board in the 9th. That's what it ended up being from some research that I found. But that's what's still amazing is you got the will, you got one team starting to crumble and the other team, determined to do it, but it still may not have happened. It's just so incredible that it happened. So anybody else recall how many batters in they felt like it was turning?
I just remember it was one of the first 2 batters where I was like, we're about to do this. And throughout that whole inning, it almost just felt too easy because I just remember thinking about it, and I was like I could see the finish line. I was like, we're about to do this. I don't care how many runs we're down by, because we had done it before, and I was just thinking about that team, and throughout that whole year, we started off slow. Everything kind of built up to that moment, and I was like, this is too easy. We've done this before. We're built for this. You know what I mean? And that I just remember feeling like that. And I'm a pretty low key type of guy. And when I was at third base and Jay hit that ball, I was fired up. And I don't usually come out of my shoes like I did, but I just remember, I know the game pretty well, and I'm pretty particular about things. But when that ball went in the air, I did not tag up right away. I was off the bag, my hands were up, and I just heard Skip yelling at me. He was like, "Get on the bag," and I was like, "Coach, that ball is gone." And that shows that my mind was completely not in this world, and I get chills thinking about it. That was a special ending right there.
I think that going off what Reed said, Coach Herbert, Skip, and Shanzy before, it wasn't so much conversation in the dugout. It was more so a look where you looked at the person next to you and everyone was like, we're about to do this again. And like Coach said at third base, he felt it. Their dugout got quiet. Reed saying that he knew it 2 batters in. I think it was like a walk, a hit guy, and then I remember Mac hitting a lazy chopper up the middle that they booted. And like Reed said, everyone's loose in the dugout. We were down by 5 runs at that point. It was 6-1, and everyone's laughing. Everyone's like, we're about to do this again. Nobody was worried. Everybody had the confidence that, we've done it how many times? It's not out of the question to do it one more time. And it was just I'll never forget it. And when you posted it on Twitter, I think yesterday, I remember we all texted each other right away. Did you watch it? All the feelings come rushing back. Like, it's something that's never going to leave all the guys that are here, all the guys that were a part of it.
I remember Bob Hardy just making sure every single person was in their exact same spot in the dugout the entire inning. Just screaming at people the entire time. Same spot, same spot.
I swear I'm not superstitious, guys. I swear.
Yeah. Buno had this rubber band, and he was doing some weird thing in his hand every batter, and he could have sworn that's why we won as well.
I wish I had a camera on Buno that whole inning because it was amazing to watch.
Yeah, one of my favorite memories is of Buno. I think Shanzy got his base hit, knocked in a run. They went in for a pitching change, and Buno was like on the edge of the stairs, like about to jump out of the dugout, just screaming, "This looks familiar!" And like, I remember, I'm pretty superstitious, so I look back, I'm like, dude, like, shut up, like, don't say that stuff. And then sure enough, it was like another run, and then Jay gets up there and ends the game. But that's a memory that has just like stuck with me forever.
So Shan's single, Gamache hit by pitch made it 6-3. Skidmore walk made it 6-4, and then the pitching change before you went up to bat. So DeVito in. Again, any recollection of issues or what you're thinking, Eddie and others, when DeVito came in the game? Was that a good thing for us, or did we want to stick with Ferguson longer?
To be honest, I don't really think it mattered much who was going to get on the mound against us. At that point, it was kind of up to us and what we were going to do. One of my actual memories that sticks out to me that year was in between that pitching change. I remember I had a pretty bad game at the plate that entire time, and I remember Coach Herba coming down to kind of calm me down and talk to me in between the pitching change and saying you're a dude, you've always have been, and that got me so amped, and I my whole mindset, no matter how many failures I had throughout the beginning of that game, kind of turned around in that one sentence, and that's kind of stuck with me ever since that moment happened, and kind of just gave me the confidence to keep the whole thing going. I didn't want to be the guy to mess it up for anyone else, but that definitely changed my whole perspective and kind of gave me that extra juice going into the at-bat. I'm just glad that I think it was Del Debbio held up a little bit in center field.
Yeah, every time I watch that, I'm like,
that ball should have been
I would have caught that thing in my back pocket.
That ball should have been caught looking back. I'm glad
it could have gone into second for a game-ending double play or something. It was I can't remember how far off the bag. Who was at second?
I was right.
Okay. But yeah, I was glad I wasn't the only one, even live or watching it, that I remember worrying that he was going to come in and make that damn catch.
Yeah.
I always think about just potential Ed's reaction if he got out instead of got a single in the dugout.
Comes the helmet toss.
We've been put right into timeout.
All right, so Pacific RBI single at 6-5 with batted around Agresti coming up. Before we get to Jason, let me go through the guys on base. All right, starting with Eddie again. You're on first. What are you thinking you want to happen? What do you think is likely to happen when Jason's at the plate? What's going through your mind?
I knew we tied the game, at least. Like, that was a given. I knew it was going to happen, so I was like, this is fantastic. Like, we're living to see at least another inning. And it kind of happened so fast that, like, I looked at the pitcher, looked at home plate, and all of a sudden I saw Jay's contact, and I was like, oh, my God, this game's over. So, like, it all seemed like it happened within a matter of, like, 5 seconds. But, like, I knew as soon as we were down 1, like, the game was tied. I think we only had 1 out at the time. Yeah. So that's why I knew, like, Jay was going to come through. I think everyone had all the confidence that he was going to come through. And, I mean, we got better than we all expected, I'm assuming. So,
Skid, you were at second, so obviously you would have been the winning run on a single somewhere. I mean, what was kind of running through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, coming off of Ed barreling him up on his first batter coming into the game, I was assuming he was a little rattled, but I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to get doubled up and have the game end right there. So I was hugging the bag a little bit, making sure I wasn't going to be the final out there.
And Reed, for you at third.
Yeah, I mean, I told my little story, but I've never hit a home run where I knew it was gone. Never hit a no-doubter. And when Jay hit that, I just knew it was gone. If it was a sac fly, I would have scored, but I wouldn't have been celebrating on third base like I was. But he hit that ball, and I just knew it was up in that jet stream. You know what I'm saying? And I was so fired up. And my job at third was pretty simple. Ball on the ground, I'm going. Ball in the air, I'm tagging. But everything was out the door at that point. That ball was smoked. So
that is one of my favorites on the video, as well as seeing Coach Sinicki emphatically point to the bag as you're starting to creep toward home and what's clearly a home run. All right, Jason, your time to share here. I know we've talked about this before, but well, one thing I don't know if we talked about DeVito. You recall much about him? Do you lock in at all on those details of the pitcher and what he might throw, or in that moment you're just looking to make contact? What was going through your mind?
So I knew nothing about DeVito. And actually, funny story, that summer he ended up being my teammate. So I had, unlimited bragging rights over that kid. I made him my son. But going into the at bat, I knew that double play, no shot I'm hitting a double play. I'm looking for a pitch that's up in the zone as something I can get under, put into the outfield, at the very least, sac fly. So I think I take the first pitch. He kind of like flipped some slider in there or something like that. Took that, and then he, second pitch, he threw a fastball up in the zone. And, I took my hack at it. And, I mean, initially the first thought in my head is, all right, great, that is sac fly. Because that's what I was trying to do. That was, what I was set on. And, naturally I, put my hand in the air for, whatever reason, didn't even think about it. And, I turn around and the freaking ball's flying over the clock or whatever. It was absolutely insane. All I could think about running around the bases was like, holy crap, we just came back down 6 again to the same team going into the championship game. I mean, it was so surreal. Words don't even do it justice.
What does anybody else remember from the dugout? Just the moment he barreled that thing up. Sounds or sights?
I mean, for the record, Jay knew it was gone. You don't throw your bat and your hand up when you hit a sac fly. So I don't know what he's talking about.
If I knew it was gone, I'm throwing my bat out of LaLasher Stadium, no doubt.
All right, but everyone knew it was gone. Everyone in the dugout knew that ball was gone. Kidding. From the sound of it, the trajectory. I mean, you watch the clip. He hits it, and everyone, you don't freak out if there's a chance it's a sac fly. You freak out when you know it's gone, and everyone, I think, knew that ball was over the fence.
So, from my perspective, I'm on I'm on deck, and we have, as hitters, we have, especially Coach Herba stressed it to us. When you're on deck to time up the pitcher and kind of lock in, go through your routine or whatever. So for me, it was more along the lines of if Jay gets on, or I guess I don't know, there's one out at that point. I think so, but or he gets out, I have to do my job, or I'm the next guy up. So what I remember is I'm just tracking the pitch, and the next thing I know, that ball's up in the air. And I think for me, at least, I don't remember. It's hard to remember moments like that as much as you want to, because of just the adrenaline, the excitement. But the one thing I do remember is that when we were surrounding home plate, the umpire we were going so crazy. The umpire was screaming at the top of his lungs to back up so he could make sure Jay touched home plate, which I thought was a little dramatic, but it was a special moment for sure.
Who else remembers anything from the dugout?
It was pure craziness. Everybody went nuts. I was on the next to the water cooler because I was pitching, and I remember Coach Jurek coming up to me when it was like 6-4 in the tying run, was on second base, telling me to get ready to go throw, because if we tied up, I was going in. And I remember thinking to myself, like, we just scored 4 runs, bases are loaded, I can't move right now. Like, once I get up, like, it's a ground roll, it's a double play ball, it's over. And then the next thing I know, I was at home plate screaming and yelling. I don't remember like getting there. It was just absolute chaos.
Anybody remember anything about that? The guys that went through the 13 and 14. How did that dog pile compare to the previous years?
Yeah, that was a surreal dog pile. I think it was different for me because I got to the dog pile a little bit earlier that year, so I was towards the bottom. So it was a time where the breath was escaping you, but at the same time, you were so happy and elated to win this tournament and to be able to move on with your brothers that it was great. It was awesome. So the only thing I remember that was different from 16 to 13 and 14 was the fact that I was now on the bottom and not on the top.
I went opposite. I went top in 16. I was on bottom with Reed in 13. It was terrible. So if you'll see pictures, I'm actually clearing the pile. I went opposite of Shanzi that year.
Yeah, nothing beats the Rob Hardy glove throw in the air. That probably is still in orbit. It was I still remember from the videos the glove going in, and then for some reason the angle was on my face, and I really wish it wasn't. But I'm just like screaming. I don't know if I look angry or happy. I was not even sure what was going on at that point. I was so happy, and my glove went up. I threw my glove and just remember just going in for the hug. And then I don't know if it was either Skid or someone tackling Eddie from behind starting the pile. So it's great that we have pictures of that. I still look at that picture of that dog pile all the time. It's great memories, brings chills back, great memories. But yeah, that was definitely one for the books.
Yeah, I apologize. I jumped ahead of myself talking about the dog pile. I wanted to just get a couple thoughts on, finishing up the Hartford game and how miraculous that was, and then again trying to balance that with being ready to play the next day and still have to win one more. I know a couple of you guys have been through this before, with me and other parts, but what does anybody recall about the messages from the coach? I'll start with you, Tim. What was the message to the guys post game on the bus at the hotel about celebrating this, but remembering they still had one more to go?
Well, that was exactly it, John. It was hard to tell the guys not to celebrate after what they just accomplished, but at the same time, we all had to kind of come to grips with that wasn't the championship game, and the next day was what we were there to do, which was win the whole thing. And I think by the time we got back to the hotel and things settled in, the guys had already kind of turned their focus the next day. And I think when we came out to the field the next day, it was, we were here to accomplish the mission that we set out to do when we left Binghamton on the bus, driving up to Lowell, get there, and we're going to win a championship. And to these guys' credit, it's exactly what they did. And as they've all said, it's something that I'll never forget. And I've been watching that replay of the highlight package over and over in the last 2 days. And it's just like a lot of great memories for me.
Any of you guys remember anything in particular in the hotel once you kind of got to relax? And I mean, you must have sat around for a while and just thought, holy crap, we just did this. But I mean, how did you guys balance that with, all right, now we got to get it done, or else it's sort of not a waste, but I mean, it'd be a shame to not finish it off.
Well, we had a lot of experience going into that tournament where we were on the other side of what we were going into with Stony Brook, where, we had to beat Hartford or Stony Brook twice, right? What was it?
Yeah.
Stony Brook, yeah. And so we were going into that just like, nothing was going to be given to us. And I remember even going in throughout that game, that last inning, I was not comfortable. I knew that there was always a chance that they'd come back, something crazy could happen where, it could slip from us. So we were never comfortable, really. We came off that Hartford game confident. We had just accomplished something incredible, but definitely not comfortable. Nothing was going to be given to us, and that was kind of the mindset, I think, going into that last day.
And I think also, I don't remember if it was, I think everyone was saying it, that was a senior at that point, because we all realized that point. But I think there's something that clicked after we were all done congregating right around second base, jumping all over Jay. We all got together as a group, and before even the coaches started to talk, I think it was just the constant of, there's still one more. Like, we're not done, and let's make sure we get to that next level. Like, there was constant talk in the group as a team that kind of brought everyone together, saying, let's not forget about this next game. We still need to win this championship. Like, that was a great win. Like, this is amazing. Like, but we're not done. And I think "we're not done" was the phrase that kept getting repeated in our group. So we kind of, I think it was Bunel or maybe it was Kreitz, and I think they were just trying to remind us that, this is great and all, but this is nothing if we don't win it all. So that we're not done. We need to get one more win. So I think that also helped, change the mindsets as to, wow, this was amazing, but there was no dog pile. So if we want to get to that dog pile, we have to still get our work done in one more game. It was nice being on top for once, and having the luxury of not having to win both games.
I feel like everyone's different in terms of their thought process, like in the hotel that night. Kind of like, to be specific towards your question, John. Yeah. Everyone's different. Obviously after you win a game like that, we're the number one team. You're like, okay, we're going to win tomorrow. There's no doubt in your mind. But at the same time, me at least, I'm playing out a million scenarios watching that game. I'm sure there were some guys who went to bed, got really good night's sleep. That game was probably 12 innings or something. Didn't it go extras, right? That Stony Brook Hartford game where they used up.
Yeah.
So, I'm watching that game, obviously, no matter who we play, you think you're going to win. But at the same time, I'm watching, I'm like, okay, what pitcher's being used, what team would throw who the next day, playing out scenarios. And then I just remember watching the whole game. I'm like, okay, these guys used every single pitcher. It's either they're going to a freshman who's never pitched, or we're seeing someone who threw 3 days ago. So then, once you kind of see that, it's like icing on the cake. It's over. It'd be different if Hartford comes out, bounces back, 10-0 win with a dominating performance, compared to watching each team deplete their, bullpen, play till 12:30 in the morning, then have to get up at 9 the next day and show up to the park and then play us nonetheless is it's a little more reassuring.
Going off of that too, I feel like the cool part about our rooming situation during the conference tournament was, I think we had 6 guys in a room. We had those suites going on, so a bunch of us are sitting there watching the games, and we're playing out scenarios, and we're still kind of in awe of everything that happened, and Jay's on top of the world, and we're all feeling that vibe through the entire team. I mean, but we knew that we had to come out that next day regardless of who, whether it's Hartford, Stony Brook, whatever it may be, and just compete. And, you know, yeah, like it was great. That walk-off was awesome. We knew we had to come out that next day, but we just had that much more swagger and confidence going into that than we had even from the beginning of the tournament.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is, again, sort of looking at the box score, reminding myself, I mean, that was a sort of a sneaky tight game, that Stony Brook game, and we hit them 13-6, but, you know, they got a run in the bottom of the second. You know, it was 1-1 before we got 4 in the fifth to kind of get some separation. Chad Lee was their starter. I don't recall, you guys, where he was in their rotation or whether he was a mop-up guy, but
He was their one.
Nick Wegman, you started. You went 5 innings and only gave up 2 hits. What do you recall about that outing?
I remember it was really hot that day, and I warmed up pitching in just a T-shirt, and I had to change my shirt. And I'm pretty superstitious, and I thought after I had to change my shirt, I thought this isn't going to go very well. And then once the game started, I remember Crow hit a double. We didn't score, and then Eddie hit a double the next inning, and we didn't score. But it just kind of felt like something was going to happen at some point. So, and then when we got that, was it 4 in the fifth or whatever it was just it was easy. It was easy going after that, and I think the whole game, kind of for me, I knew as long as I did my job and I didn't get blown up at any point, that we were going to win this game, no problem.
And then take you guys to the 8th inning. So up 6-1, Stoney gets 2, and then they got runners on 2nd and 3rd with that hard comebacker that Rob snared. And Rob Hardy, what do you recall about that moment in time? That gets through you, and all of a sudden 2 runs are in. It's 6-5. You know, you're real in some trouble.
Yeah, it's a different ball game if that gets by. But to be honest, it was just a natural reaction to try to stick a glove up and catch it. But at the end of the day, it really wasn't hit as hard as a comebacker as I like to think it was. It just almost caught me by surprise with the fact that it looked like it was barreled up and wasn't. I might have gotten into the heat of the moment just a little bit by chucking the ball to the moon. I've gotten some backlash from that in recent years from the coaching staff over at Stony Brook and running into them on the road recruiting. But in the heat of the moment, that ball was going to the moon. It wasn't coming back. I remember walking off the field and the umpire said something. I don't know what he said, and I frankly did not care what he was going to say to me at that point. He wasn't going to eject me from the game for doing that. But, yeah, I mean, that ball gets through. It's a different ball game. You know, that would have been a crazy scenario, but luckily we don't have to worry about that.
Does anybody else on the field or in the dugout remember hearing any chatter about the ball toss?
Being in the dugout, that whole year when Rob came in relief, everybody kind of got the feeling like it's locked down. Like no matter what the score was, Rob was going to shut the door. But I know Joey L loved when Rob would go in because he would scream, "Rob Hardy." So when Rob gets in, you know, everybody in the dugout's engaged. Everyone's in the game, innings 1 through 9. But when Rob gets in there, it's a little bit more electric sometimes. So it was just – it's crazy, and some of the things Rob does is hilarious. And he knows he gets a little bit for the ball toss in the glove because it's still orbiting around, but he does it in the right times, and he has a reason to do it because when he goes out there, he was magical that entire year.
It's very easy to pitch when you got Joey O in your corner too. Very easy.
Hey, John, for the record, I don't appreciate the fact that you assumed the center fielder wouldn't have thrown the second guy at home.
Good.
He had a cannon.
Oh, that's cool.
Noodle arm.
I think I had like 8 assists that year, so relax. 7 of them were to second base.
You threw it on the money every time.
Yeah,
it was on the money
yeah. The scouting report was test the center fielder's arm at every chance.
I.O. Crow standing on the infield for his throw home.
Yeah, well, you got to do what you got to do, you know.
Skip purposely hit those ground balls a little softer to you, so
You
can
could
run
take
up on
BP from the mound, you would. So relax.
All right, Foles, I got to go to you for this. Not a new question, but just have you ever seen a comeback like that, the Hartford win, and what are your memories of that whole tournament, just as a whole, thinking back?
Well, you know, I've been around long enough to say that I've seen some, but not a whole lot. That was unbelievable. I remember in the ninth inning, I remember where I was standing in the dugout the entire inning. I was on the top step where the players would exit to get into the on-deck circle. I was leaning on the railing. And despite what Jay tried to say there, very humbly, when he hit that ball, the only question I had was it going to come down? That thing was majestic, soaring over that scoreboard. There was never a question. That was an incredible inning, and every guy that went by me and headed to the on-deck circle, there wasn't a whole lot of conversation, but what you did see was young men that were not so much determined to get a hit, but they were really determined not to make an out. That was easy to see. And as Skip pointed out, I kept looking over into the Hartford dugout, and I had seen that look before on Blood's face and his cocky assistants. I had seen that look before, and they just looked helpless. They looked like there was nothing they could do to stop what was inevitably going to happen. It was incredible. During this shutdown, I've been locked into MLB Network every day, watching a lot of baseball, and they've had a series on with the 20 greatest games of all time. And I think that Hartford game could have got in there for somewhere because
if only you had a good
certainly
PR guy that would have promoted that a little.
Well, I'm telling you, and they had panels like you're having right now, and being a Mets fan, they had the 86 series with Houston and some of those great games. But you got to be in the game a long time to see anything any more exciting than what happened that afternoon, for sure. But these guys, like any championship team, they were a very special bunch of kids, talented for sure. They had a great mix of what it takes to be a champion, starting with the fact that they had a real love for each other, which was evident. They accepted roles. That's important. They did that. And they played baseball, and they knew if they played good baseball, the outcome had a good chance to be in their favor. And they did that day in and day out. And Bunel mentioned something earlier about business as usual. And with the great teams, that's pretty much what it is. They get to the ballpark, it's business as usual. They play the game in a business-like manner, and these guys did that. And it was fun for me to watch, that's for sure. I got great memories of a lot of baseball seasons, but this one is right up there with the best of them.
I believe it. So it was Bob Ellis on the streaming call for Lowell on the broadcast that did the jet stream. But aside from hearing it from him, who on the team can lay claim to the Jetstream J nickname? And does that truly live on? Is that what we call him now?
That's our group chat name still.
All right, good. So we're done. We got the championship. Come home. What does anybody remember about the selection show? Thoughts about when we popped up going to College Station? Happy? Were there other spots on the board that people were rooting for more so? Or what were the initial thoughts on going to Texas A&M?
We get to fly. I think everybody was kind of
Virginia.
Yeah, we were all like nervous whether we were gonna have to drive to Virginia or fly to somewhere else. We all wanted to fly.
I remember people being really angry.
I remember some people thinking like we thought we were going somewhere else, and when we found out we were going to Texas A&M, some guys maybe thought that we got gypped a little bit, that we were a little better than that year. So, I mean, but with Jay, I mean, if we get to fly, everyone's excited for it.
So, like, after it hits us that we're going to be taking a trip somewhere, then you start thinking about who we're playing, and we're like, we start, researching Texas A&M. Obviously, everybody knows them, but it turns out they're arguably the top team in the nation. We're like, holy crap, we got to play these guys, on a Friday night. They're home. Like, we're going to be stepping into a pretty hostile environment. But it was an unbelievable experience to go down there and see what a top program in the nation has, and what it's like down there. It's just it's a different world, really.
Tim and Ryan, obviously the players know this, but just for any other people that might hear this, what if you can think back at any NCAA moment, but this one in particular, you walk out of that towel room with the knowledge, or I guess you might have had it before, I can't recall. What wheels are in motion for you in terms of beginning the scouting process?
Well, John, I know for me, we did not know in advance where we were going. I think it was about the time that we did know, however, we weren't going to go to certain states because of our governor's travel ban to North Carolina and to Mississippi. And to this day, I wonder if the NCAA took that out on us a little bit by sending us to Texas A&M because they were the number one team in the country. But once that was announced, for me, I just like to sit back and watch our guys' reaction. I could tell how they were excited they were. I could tell they were looking forward to the challenge of not only going to Texas A&M in a big time situation, but to take on a team with the tradition and the history that they have. And then for me and for their coaches, it's get to work. We try to find out what we can about teams. There's a lot of traveling and there's a lot of administrative kind of paperwork that we have to take care of. And then there's an opportunity to get maybe a practice or two in and hit the road and then, jump on a plane and get going. So, but for me, I just remember our guys were super excited about the opportunity and the challenge that was ahead of us. And again, I think we walked into that situation prepared and ready to compete. And I think even though we lost 2 ball games, I thought we represented ourselves very, very well and competed at a very high level.
What did you recall about those moments and hours after finding out where we were going?
I think basically just kind of what Skip said. I mean, by at that time in the season, we've all spent so much time together. And I mean, especially like the coaching staff, I basically had the same thoughts as Skip. I think we kind of looked at each other and we were like, boy, we have pretty good ball club and we're playing pretty well right now. That doesn't seem like a real fair place to send us. And that didn't mean that we felt sorry for ourselves, but like Skip said, we had taken other teams to regionals that maybe we had snuck in a little bit more. This was a team that probably didn't deserve to go play in that environment. Whether they were the number 1 national seed or not, I think they were the 3 or 4 national seed. They had just won the SEC tournament. They were number 1 in the nation in the coaches poll. And Bluebell is arguably one of the most difficult places to play in college baseball. So on that, I think we were looking at each other behind closed doors like, wow, man, they really fed us to the wolves this time. But once that immediate thought, kind of disperses, like Skip said, there's a lot of planning that's got to happen in about 24 hours, and the brunt of it falls on Skip. And the rest of us is just, we're there for him to see if we can help him do anything, plan meals, organize travel with them, make sure the guys don't forget anything, and just try and take a little bit of the load off his plate. But, practices at that point, we're not trying to beat our guys up. We've practiced since September. So, I feel like, everything at that point is a little bit along the lines of house money, and the practices are just a little bit sweeter and the travel's just a little bit nicer. And, it's really almost a time you just enjoy each other, and, if I've learned anything about our program, and this comes from the top, it comes from Skip and Foles and everybody. we really don't care where they send us. I mean, when it comes right down to us, I don't think our program fears anybody. And I think we have a lot of confidence in the way we play the game of baseball. And I think we have a lot of confidence in the guys we run out there. And I think we feel like if we do our best to play a good brand of Binghamton baseball, it'll stand up to anybody in the country on any given day.
What I'm curious, either Horry or Kreitz on the call, or anybody else who hasn't had a chance to say much yet. What do you guys recall about the trip down there, or your first walk into Bluebell Park, and just what that experience felt like?
I just remember it being hotter than hell the whole week. I mean, just ungodly heat. And I think what Coach Herba said really puts it in perspective. We didn't care who we got. You know, our goal was to beat the living shit out of whoever we played. And, you know, it just so happened they were in our way. But I remember, like Wade said in the conference tournament, me warming up for that second game, I think I went through 4 shirts, and then it poured, and then I went through another 2 just to get ready.
So it was I had a great time with my team. It was an amazing experience for me. To be honest, going to Texas, I felt like I was back in the Philippines. It was like perfect temperature. Like New York.
You're wrong. It was hotter than hell.
I love it though. It's like that was like perfect temperature for me. And to be honest, this team during that year, everyone was great. Like our like chemistry, we're so connected. And from freshman all the way to senior, everyone was like, we love each other. And I agree with Kreitz. Any team, I thought this team could like at least compete and beat them. So yeah, I love this team.
Nick Liegi, what about you? What are some of your thoughts and memories?
One nice memory was seeing the atmosphere that they brought for Texas A&M, the fans there. Going back to what Herbert said, it truly is a tough place to play if you're the away team, because they'll blow bubbles in your face. They'll count how many balls you throw in a row, and they don't care. They want more. So it was nice to see that fans really come out, and we were just trying to put on a show for our family and friends that were down there. But it was a great trip nonetheless.
What Nick Wegman?
Hey, John.
Yeah.
This is Foles. I can't believe no one's brought this up yet, but I'll bring it up. So my initial few steps into the ballpark, we're walking down the warning track there toward our dugout. I forget who approached me. Maybe they'll remember if one of them's on the phone, but somebody approached me and said, Foles, can I talk to you for a minute? I'm like, yeah, what's up? Never breaking stride. I think I was walking in with Herba at the time. I think Ryan and I were walking in together. And the message was, we don't have any baseballs. And I'm like, what? Yeah, we left the baseballs in the airport in Houston. I'm like, oh boy. We had, Skip's kind of tight with the baseballs at times. Some of the balls we use are look right out of Cooperstown. And he had broken out probably 5 dozen brand new ones for BP, Texas. And they got left on the luggage turnstile there. So we were walking into the ballpark with no baseballs except for the pitcher's bag. And Ryan and I had to commandeer some baseballs from the Texas A&M grounds crew. And I remember when Skip went out to throw BP, and the bucket was out there, or whatever the hell, the thing on the wheels there with the netting. The balls in there were not brand new, and I was hitting some fungos to the infield at the time, and he looked at me and said, "What's going on?" And I didn't want to rile him, so I just said, "I'll tell you later." That was the end of that. But we donated some nice baseballs to somebody in Houston.
Does anybody want to own up to the baseball mistake in the airport?
Probably only 2 options.
Could have done that. Who possibly could have done that?
It was all part of the year. It was perfect.
Not a 60-year guy.
I think, if anything, it made us better in the end.
That's right.
That's right, Daniel. I forgot. I didn't want to bring you in just on that note. But what are some of your thoughts? Obviously, getting in that starting lineup as a freshman, making the impact that you did. What were some of your thoughts on that season and that championship?
Well, I mean, I specifically remember my first at bat down at Bluebell, being the smallest kid on the team, 5'9", 145, and facing 6'4", whoever, I can't remember his name anymore, but just the 10,000 plus people screaming, and I could never even imagine or could have imagined playing in a situation like that. But yeah, the nerves were, it was very nerve-wracking, honestly. But the one thing that really did stick out to me was leaving the park. I thought the way we played and the amount of times I heard, like, y'all come back now. Like, we loved having you here. You guys played great. Like, safe travels home, like this and that. I just thought we gained a lot of respect from a team that probably didn't even know where Binghamton was until after that day.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely heard a lot of that as well. The fan base, the media, they all were so impressed with not only the caliber of play, but just the quality of all of you and how you represented yourselves. Maybe not a departure from that, but perhaps I've got to ask Nick Wegman, if I'm recalling correctly, there was a moment of communication between Nick and an A&M batter. I need some more details on what that was all about, please.
Word for word. To be honest, John, I told him I thought he was a really good-looking guy, and for some reason, he took offense to it. I don't know what the problem was, but he didn't like it. So that's my story, and I'm going to stick to it.
I can talk a little bit about that. I knew it was coming before it ever happened. I saw him taking his dear old time, getting in the box, and I know Wegs was in the zone where he wasn't going to take anything from anyone, no matter the stage we were on. And, like, he was the other catchers. You know, catchers don't really say things kind of to each other because a little bit of unwritten code. But, like, I knew he was doing it on purpose because, like, we kind of had a little bit of momentum. And I know as soon as I didn't even know what Wegs said at the time, but I heard something come out of his mouth, and Barash's head came up so fast that I was like, oh my gosh, Wegs, like please don't go any further. Like, you don't know what you're about to get yourself into. And I don't want to have to I don't have to get in the middle of this game. But then after he gave up that hit, like, I've never been in a stadium like with that kind of noise ever in my entire life. Like, it just seemed like that entire stadium was on top of us. And I think we responded well to it, but, like, it was just funny that I knew it was happening before Wegs ever came anything out of his mouth.
What Eddie said, I think anybody that was on the field at the time, I'm sure everybody in the dugout as well, but being on that field, never experienced anything like that in my life. Just that entire stadium erupted. They had the bubble machines going.
It was like a 2-out single with no one on base.
He gets the first base, and he, like, throws his hands up like he just, like, won the game or something, and that place just went absolutely insane.
Yeah, and then just being close, being at third base for the whole thing. I believe Wegman told him to get the bleep in the box.
No, that doesn't sound like me.
That doesn't sound like Nick. Nick would never say that word.
Don't get me wrong. We were all thinking it. We all knew what he was doing.
Well, then afterwards, Dave, everybody, like all the infielders, come to the mound, and I had spit on the mound, and I tried to clean it off with my cleat, and I had to take a step forward, and Dave was in front of me. Dave's like trying to hold me back. He's like, "Don't go in there, don't go." I'm like, "Dave, can I please just kick the dirt with my shoe? I'm gonna be fine."
Like, it's not worth it, man. It's not worth it. You don't need to do it.
I think you could have taken it.
I just want to kick the spit away.
Yeah, I thought it was.
That was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in all my years of baseball. I was so excited when that happened. That was wonderful.
What were you going to say, Paul?
Even branching off Folds, there's a lot of ways you could look at that situation, but at least, looking back, how I view it is like, you know, Binghamton baseball obviously not being as big as of a school as Texas A&M or in the SEC or SEC champions, you know, to think that that's the length they had to go to, you know, get the stadium going. I think it attests to us that we kind of scared them a little bit. You know, they were frightened of us, and they needed a little something extra to get them going. And they were great. I mean, they were a great team. And that goes without saying, but I think it also says a lot about us and that we were able to go down there and really, you know, create some fear in Texas A&M.
Going off of what everybody was talking about, I mean, that atmosphere, after that single and that place erupted, I ran in from the bullpen, and I thought I was never going to get to the mound. The fans were harsh. Some of the things that you had said. I remember one guy asked Skid if he got his pants from the toilet seat. I thought I was never going to get to the mound. And then when I got there, coach was like, it's 4-2, guy on second doesn't score. And I'm just, yep, okay. So the first pitch in my warm-ups goes halfway up the backstop. I was like, oh, this is going great. And then you just settle in. And I remember when Reed made that diving over-the-shoulder catch in shallow right field, as harsh as those fans were to us at some points, they just appreciated good baseball. So I remember they erupted after Reed made that catch. And like Frankie said before, you know, they were congratulating us on the walk out, telling us to come back, appreciating it. And just the atmosphere in general, like Eddie and everybody's spoken on, was we've never played in front of that many fans. It was unbelievable. It's something that I know I could say all of us will never forget. And I remember the post-conference, Coach Sinicki saying, we didn't come here for sightseeing or a vacation. We gave them everything they could handle, and we earned some respect. And that's just something that I'll never forget, any of that experience.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I mean, yeah, so, you know, we brought the time run to the plate in the 7th and the 9th innings. I remember also seeing the quote. I didn't see the press conference live, but their head coach afterwards, I know, said he gave us a ton of credit, as you would expect, but it was a little bit more even than typically a winning coach is going to do. And I know I had to laugh. I think he also said that their first guy and their last guy on the mound could pitch for anybody, and I thought that was an intentional return shot, right?
I had a real problem with that, John. I'm going to be honest. A real problem with that.
Well, I chalked it all up to that encounter. That wasn't anything to do with your skill, but I thought overall his comments were extremely complimentary, of course, as they should be. Tim, what do you recall about your exchanges with that coach? I can't recall his name.
Yeah, same thing, John. He was tremendously complimentary of our guys. He didn't tell me anything I didn't know. Talked about how we competed, how talented we were, all things that myself and the entire coaching staff already knew about our ball club. But it's nice to hear it when it comes from someone who's coaching the number one team in the country. And as the guys all said, I think their fans got a taste of Binghamton baseball and what we're all about. And I think that really typified who we were that season and who we are as a program. And again, just a once in a lifetime experience for not just these guys on the screen right now, but for me as well.
All right, short turnaround next afternoon, Minnesota. Again, rain in the mix again. Down 5-0. You get 5 in the bottom of the 5th to tie it up, and then the rains come even harder. They got to put the tarp on. I'm calling it the rain lost us that game. What does anybody recall about the momentum shift and seriously how unfortunate that moment in the game was?
So if I remember correctly, the rain delay happened and I was left coming up to the bat. So once the rain delay ended, and I think it was probably like an hour and a half, it was a decently long rain delay. And I knew we had momentum on our side going into the rain delay. So kind of my thought process was, if this guy throws me a first pitch fastball and a good pitch to hit, I'm going to try and hop on it. Because, I mean, we got the momentum. I'm going to try and get it back as quick as possible. And I think he gave me a good pitch to hit. I ended up, hitting a fly out to center or whatever it was. But that was my thought process going into that at-bat. coming off the rain delay.
I think the rain delay couldn't have come at a worse time. Like, I think we rattled off 5 runs in the 5th to come back to tie it up, and we had bases loaded with 2 outs. And then they called the rain delay, and I remember everybody in the dugout being like, "You can't do this right now." And then, like Jay said, an hour and a half. I mean, I believe he hit like a smoked line drive, and when it was caught, you're just like I'm sure they at the time had like a sigh of relief.
Yeah, I got to play with the shortstop there, Verana, and then their lefty Gilbreth, and they both have said it basically was a basketball timeout for them. They were getting a little run against them, and it really kind of helped them reset the brakes. Everybody take a breath, redo their strategy, what they're thinking, and kind of move forward and kind of sputter everything that we were building.
Yeah, I think it was it was obviously a very unfortunate timing. And then even after that, it seemed like every hit that fell in the first half wasn't falling in the second half. And every hard hit ball that we kind of put in play was directly at guys, and nothing really fell our way after that. And I mean, it's not that we can do about it. It was kind of just baseball, and we were on the unlucky side of it. But I mean, it was unfortunate that it happened, because I think no doubt about it, if we kept that momentum going, they kind of had their tail between their legs at that point.
Anybody else remember anything about that game, or sort of kind of wrapping up afterwards and the trip back home?
John, I remember, you know, a lot of times when you go into an NCAA tournament and you get to play the host, you know, they've earned the right to host the regional. They're considered one of the top 16 teams in the country. And that year, Texas A&M was a national seed. So we knew what we were getting into. I don't want to speak for anybody else. Minnesota was probably as good, and it didn't take very long to figure that out. I remember thinking like, wow, this team is as good a team as we've played in a long time. They were physical. They had a lot of athletes on the field. Their entire outfield looked like they could have played center field. I remember them making 2 or 3 plays on balls, and in my head I was thinking, you know, there are a lot of teams we've played where those outfielders don't even try and make those plays. And so I remember talking to their first baseman a little bit towards the back half of that game, and I was like, you guys are as athletic as we've – and he was like, yeah, any one of these guys can play center. They all run 6'7s. And he kind of spotted off. He's like, this is probably the most athletic team we've had in a while. So I remember that about the Minnesota matchup. I didn't know much about them going in and had a tremendous amount of respect. They actually wound up making it to the championship game against Texas A&M. They knocked Wake Forest out and almost beat A&M to force the if game, if I remember right. They were a really good club that year.
Tim, what do you remember about that game?
Yeah, same thing. Very athletic as a group. But again, like the guys said, that rain delay came at the absolute worst possible time. But even I think when we started playing again, I never thought until the final out of the ball game was made that we were out of it. It's just the type of team that we had and the type of, competitors we had in our program. So, even though we pulled away a little bit and we had some work to do to tie that thing up or try to eventually take the lead, I really didn't think we were out of it until, the ball game was over.
Good.
Yeah. Also, just one last thing to add to that. I still hear the Minnesota fight song little thing they did when they scored every time, all the time. My nightmares. It's just every time they'd score, they'd spell out the name of the school and sing "Go Gophers," and I still can't get that out of my head. That's something that is my main standout, other than obviously the rain delay.
Well, you guys, listen, it's been great. I really appreciate you getting on. It's 2.5 hours. Thanks for hanging in there. Anybody have any final thoughts on the season or any memories or anything that you wanted to share that we didn't get to tonight?
Aaron, you got to talk about your missed helmet catch.
That was a layup, dude.
So as Jay's coming around the corner, I'm yelling to him, throw his helmet in the air. And that was my only job. And I whiffed. I completely dropped the ball on that one.
Drop the helmet.
Hey, John, real quick before we hang up.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that everyone on this call realizes what a special year that was for me. And I know it's to the other coaches as well, but for me personally, what a group of guys this was and how much I love each and every one of them. And those memories are greater and greater each and every passing year. And I just want those guys to know how special a group this is and always will be to me.
Appreciate that, Tim. Yep, absolutely. Anybody else have any parting thoughts before we close it out?
He's up, baby. He's up.
Good. All right.
Love
Hey,
you
stick
guys.
together, you guys. I appreciate it. I'm glad that you guys are all still close and doing your thing. Hopefully everybody's safe and healthy during this crazy time. And keep your good thoughts going for our current baseball team, the guys that lost their season, and Daniel and company. Hopefully we'll get back at it next year and create another memory for everybody. So thanks again, you guys. I'm going to close the call and take care.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Guys.
Stay safe.
See you guys.
Stay safe. Love you guys.